I'm finishing my very teeny tiny soda. Before I get started, but I'm doing a math pack. This is my webbing. This is my zipper. Other little webbing piece. I'm doing gunmetal hardware. I'm doing lime green, iridescent lime green accents. I did decide to quilt it, so I'm going to start off by quilting it. And I'm doing Beetlejuice canvas. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. I'm so excited. And then dig this piece out. My waterproof canvas interior is lime green too. Boom. Oh, I'm really excited about this one. So this is at the 120% increase. I'm going to do the split zipper gusset because I think I prefer that one, and I'm still trying to riddle out the math on that. Last time my math was a little off. So I want to make sure that my math ends up with the original thickness of the gusset. My other one was a little bit thin. So revisited the math on that, and I made templates this time for the rectangular pieces, and I cut these with the templates. I want to make sure all the math, works out. So that's what I'm doing. Ooh, and look, you can spy my thread. Take it off the stand. Isn't this pretty? It's got all the lime green in it and purples. Oh, it's so good. This just kind of came together. I've never cut into this canvas before, and I'm so excited to use it. This is my new-ish machine. It's not that new. Oh, you know what? Look, I don't even have a foot. I need to get my foot off the other machine. I'm using the straight stitch machine tonight because I really want to use that thread, and it's a Tex 40. I think it's 40, it might be 35, but it's thicker than what my domestic would like. I don't have any cool thread for my domestic, and I really want to use the cool thread. So, okay, I needed to steal this foot off here. Pretty much as always, I am going to fully assemble with my zipper foot because that's just what I do. So anyway, I have only made, let's see, I've used this at a workshop. I took this to the Wizardry Retreat, which is where my thread is from actually. Ooh, oh my God, just like ricocheted ricocheted a little screwdriver at myself there. Oh my goodness. And for those who are not familiar, which I'm sure you are, this is this is the math pack from Lynn's Handmade Designs. So if you're looking to make one of these, I would for sure grab one of those patterns from her. Adore this pattern. And honestly, I have not had a whole lot of Sojo this year. And this pattern, I did it at the Wizardry Retreat along with a bunch of others, and this pattern totally got my Sojo back. I'm now looking for my lighter so I can burn the ends of this. Oh, nothing is where I leave it, I swear. Oh, now I have to get on the floor. Ay, 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 if I drop anything else. Okay. I think this is going to be a fun one tonight. Fun in a sarcastic tone, maybe. Because I have dropped 4 things and made a mess and... Oi. Alright, I'm starting off, I'm doing double zipper pulls on this one, so I'm doing both of those now so I don't forget. Because I just don't want to give myself, if I give myself the opportunity to screw up, I totally will. So how about let's not? Let's just not. How about that? So personally, I mean, you don't have to do double zipper pulls, but I really like the way that the Mav looks with it. I just think it's cute and it adds a little something. So if you can, got off a little bit, I say do the double zipper pulls because it's fun. I actually need some new Beetlejuice zipper pulls because this is, there we go. These are my last two. Like I've literally had these forever and I only bought a 5-pack, but look how freaking cute they are. And I don't even know where I got these. So if you guys have a source on some Beetlejuice hardware, hit me up because I might do some customs myself. On my Facebook group, I talked about possibly doing a Beetlejuice project box. I haven't decided on the pattern, but I've been drawing the art and I don't even want to reveal the idea because it's just way too cool, but I have a tag in mind. I have some vinyl panels in mind for the project that'll be sized for the project. And a couple of other things that I want to do for it. And so I might buy somebody else's, but frankly, I might just do my own. My needle threader is stuck. Why are you stuck? What's wrong with you? This needle threader is good, but every once in a while it gets a little weird. It's okay. We all get a little weird, right? We all get a little weird, needle threader. It's okay. Okay, let me see. I'm on a basting stitch, which I don't want to be, and I'm a little slow on the machine. And I think I want to be needle down. Hopefully I threaded this right. Did I thread you right, machine? You sound a little weird. Why do you sound weird? I just have black in the underside of this right now. I'm trying to use up this bobbin. I like the variegated thread. I feel like outside of rainbow, this is my first go in just like 2 or 3 color variegated thread, and it's pretty. I need to make sure the tension on this is good. I think it's okay. I think we're all right. So yeah, I bought this machine. I did an unboxing review. I think I made like 2 or 3 projects, and then I took it on a sewing retreat and made projects there. And that's all I have done with this machine so far. And I've been swapping back and forth between machines so often I can't remember, like, you know what I mean? You ever have that problem? Like you can't remember how to thread your machine. You can't remember to like do stuff. When I got back, I couldn't figure out why my industrial machine wasn't working. I hadn't used it in so long. Kind of the same idea. I was threading it according to, or I think I was putting the bobbin in backwards is what it was, and then I had a burr on the plate because I had a needle strike, and I had some other weird stuff. It was all very weird, and I got it figured out eventually, but I was like, why won't this machine work? I've never had a problem before. And it was because I was treating it like this machine instead of doing what that machine wanted. So but this machine sounds really clunky tonight. Normally it's really smooth. I wonder if I threaded it wrong. I mean, it's sewing fine, but it's a little weird. Well, good grief, this thread is really pretty. This is from Wizardry Stitchery, and it's called Villainous. And I really like it. I like it a lot. This is going to double as, I'm doing the slider hack on the back, which I really like. And then I'm also just going to cut a strip off to be my D-ring connection on the top. So, I don't know if you can see that in the very good light, but look how pretty that variegated thread is. And it matches perfect. And then later, if I need it, I don't know, but I have this purple. So I pulled this out in case I need purple. I don't really know what for, but just in case. Before I get too far along, I'm just going to top stitch. This is my slip pocket I'm doing on the inside instead of a zipper pocket. I just prefer this. One, I'm lazy, but two, it's such a small bag, I just don't personally think it needs a zippered pocket. You could add this in addition to if you like extra pockets. This is sewing fine because it really does sound awfully clunky. I don't get it. Although it does kind of look like the needle is wrapped around a little bit here. Or the thread, excuse me, is wrapped around this needle. So let me see here if it I got a thread shred. Well, that's no good. I really think this is going to be one of those non-cooperative nights a little bit. Okay, and now is where I just thread this thing myself because I don't feel like screwing with this anymore. Normally the threader on this machine is great. And of course tonight it doesn't want to cooperate. It's always got to be something, you know? Just always. Okay, so I top stitched my pocket. I got that done. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm quilting. This one is my front. So I'm doing this, I'm doing this kind of diamond quilting around this one right here. I managed to, if I would have gone a little bit over, I could have gotten Lydia and Beetlejuice, but I mostly just got Beetlejuice and I'm okay with that. Hi Eve, I am using an Elna EF1. It's technically, I think the name of it, like the sub model of this is Elnita, E-L-N-I-T-A, Elnita, but it's by Elna and the model is an EF1. It's just a straight stitch machine. I might turn that stitch length up just a skosh. So I'm quilting this because I want the quilted look, but I'm quilting it because I don't really care for the stabilizer that I used on this. I'll probably have to peel it a little and like reseat it a couple of times, but I'm going to quilt it first and we'll just kind of see what happens. And if I don't end up liking it, I might I don't know. I really despise Peltex, but I'm trying to use it because that's what the pattern calls for. I make it without Peltex all the time, but I just wanted to try it. And, oh, okay, so I ran out of bobbin thread. That's what happened there. Maybe that's why it sounds kind of clunky. And I already have a pre-wound bobbin over here. I was just trying to use the last of this one. But I wound up another bobbin thread already, so we're good. Now I have to remember how to thread this bobbin, because it's opposite of what I think it is. I think. I can't remember. This one I think is different than the other ones. I can never recall which one is which. So we'll see if that makes it happy or if it gets real upset. Let me grab a scrap and we'll try it out. Let's see, a scrap. Oh goodness. Okay. If I were a scrap, it's not like I don't have a billion scraps around here. Just need a junk scrap. Okay. It's kind of a big scrap for testing, but it's something. Eve says, I'm glad I caught it live. I'm glad you caught it too. We're just hanging out, chatting, working on stuff. You know. Okay, let's see if this works. Hey, I think it worked. And it sounds better now. It's not nearly as clunky. I don't know if that registered on the mic, but I can just already tell that sounds way better. I'm thinking it was two different. Technically, these are the same weight of thread, but I think one of them was from a different brand and possibly just was behaving a little bit differently, because I could hear that like clunk, 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 clunk. And I just thought, wow, that's so weird. It's not sewing, you know, as cleanly as it normally would. So anyway, I'm just going to diamond quilt this across the front, add a little detail. Yeah, that sounds a billion times better. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but I certainly can. Basically each time I quilt a line, I'm just gonna run the foot along that same line. On either side. The lines that I drew on here are in Taylor's chalk. I'll loosen that tension a little bit too, because I just don't think we need all that. Well, maybe we need some of it. Anyway, so it's Taylor's chalk and it'll disappear with heat. Right, so all these white marks, I'll hit it with a heat gun in the end and it'll disappear. I really love Taylor's chalk. It's a really good, cheap alternative, inexpensive. So that's a good way to make marks on anything that you're going to see later. And it does work on vinyl. It likes a texture, but it'll work on vinyl. So I think part of that clunky noise I'm hearing is it sewing through this Peltex. I don't think it likes the Peltex. It wouldn't have made that noise on the waterproof canvas because there wasn't any, Peltex on there. And so I think that's that clunk I'm hearing is the needle. This needle might be a little dull. Thread got a little hung up there. Okay. So I did, okay, all of those. So now I just need to go back and do the ones on the side real quick. Went off the side on that one. I don't know what is going on today. My nose is so flipping runny. It's driving me crazy. I really wish you were allowed to listen to music on live streams without getting like muted. So annoying. So I would love to listen to music. So this quilting, because it's the same color as all this, it's really subtle, but at least I won't have to deal with the Peltex coming off of the fabric, so. I would love if this was vinyl and it had a puffier. Typically when I quilt like this, to give like a puffed appearance, I put foam behind it. And I didn't on this, and I kind of wish I had. I'm not loving this Peltex. I'm really not loving this Peltex. I hate the way it feels. It feels like this bag is made out of cardboard. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with interfacing. Okay, I equally quilted all my sides. Okay. Turn my press on, get rid of those marks. I need to prep my tag. Oops. Prep my tag to go on there with just some double stick tape. So this is your reminder if you're sewing something. I asked on a live, by the way, the other night if anybody wanted any of the tape that I use, and I did get some responses of yes, so I'm pulling that into the shop. I got a limited run of it, and we'll see what you guys think of it. I really love my tape. It's super sticky, but it's not so sticky that it like causes problems. And the backing is pretty easy to get off, and it's 1/8 of an inch wide. Of course, as I say all this, I'm like, I can't get the back off. There we go. And it works really well on like zippers, cork, vinyl, leather, cotton. It works well on all things. It's the only one that I'll use anymore. And it comes in 55-yard like things. So I showed it the other night. This is a brand new one that's never been used. It's 55 yards. And you can tell like this one's getting pretty well used, but I've been using that one for like a year. So this will last you a very long time. And I love the thinness of it. So that'll make its way into the shop at some point soon, along with everything else I'm bringing in. Fun times. Lots of stuff going on. I'm working my way through all the iterations of these math packs so I can make sure that the templates work properly. And then I won't be concerned about like my sizing or my math on some of the pattern pieces for the hacks. I decided on the templates for now. I'm not going to offer the 110%. Most people wanted the 115 or the 120. So it seemed to me that that was the more prudent thing. So the first round of templates are going to be the original, the 115% and the 120%. And you'll be able to buy just the curved options, which just kind of means like just the wonky, like weird pieces basically. And then you'll also be able to buy the hacked pieces if you want them. The hacked pieces are going to be an add-on. So if you want the like full rectangles for the hacked zipper gussets, like so you don't have to do the math, I did it for you and I created a pattern template piece, and that's actually what I'm testing tonight are those templates. So I cut all these pieces using the templates. None of them were cut using a rotary. So I need to make sure that my maths. So if it's all good, then that means that this last iteration is done with. So there'll be like 4 different versions of each one that you can get if you're looking for math pack templates. So not only am I making a bag, but so you can see all that Taylor's chalk is totally gone. And I have the really subtle quilting on here from the back. It looks like that. I do really like this variegated thread. It's quite pretty, but it is subtle because, you know, this is such a busy background. So that's one side, and then we'll do the same here. And then that Beetlejuice panel I just did. I don't know if this is weird. I don't have a Beetlejuice bag tag right now because it's on its way from the manufacturer. So I have my Fun Bobby tag. Oops, squash that with my fingernail. So it says, I don't know you, that's my purse. And I know that this is not a Bobby bag or King of the Hill bag, but I kind of just thought I might tuck it in just to be silly. But I don't know if I will. I might not do a tag on this one because I feel a little weird about the fact that it doesn't, oops, did not tell you that was sticky. I feel weird about the fact that it doesn't match the bag aesthetic. So I'm going to tuck this tag right here, right now. And then I got to get a ruler and make sure it's straight. Oh, why is my ruler so far away? Everything is so far away. Okay. It's a little crooked. Okay. I think that's a bit better. Let's see. Yeah, that'll do. We'll put that on now before I forget, because I don't need to do that. I always hand crank on my tags. I just want them to look perfect. Of course, inevitably when I say that, I end up screwing them up, so, you know. Perfect is relative. Okay, so I got me a bag tag. So next up, I'm just gonna quilt the same one. I'll go a lot quicker on this one now that I don't have to deal with that weird bobbin and all that. Actually, I need to go this way. Come on. Threads. This thread is so like stiff, it's just a little unruly. Just wants to get right in the way. Why do I keep doing that? I'm going the wrong way. just gonna quick get rid of my lines on this one and then we're all good to go. Okay. Very good. So I've got that, my slip pocket, my front piece. You know what? Let's go ahead and baste. I'm doing the binding method, by the way, if you're following along with me. So let's go ahead and baste a liner piece to each of these, and let's baste our pocket onto a liner piece. So I mentioned I'm just doing a slip pocket. So I have a piece I top stitched across the top. Oops. So what we're going to do is line up the bottom of your pocket here with the bottom of this guy and make sure it's all straight. Get it in front of you, make sure it's not crooked. And then what I like to do is just baste a little bit here. And then I actually repeat the same thing on the other side, taking care to make sure that nothing is crooked or pulled. And I just, do this little baste in the seam allowance here because we're not gonna see it obviously later if we keep it in the seam allowance, and just make sure that your pocket is flat. And now that it's tacked at the top and bottom, because this is such a huge pain to keep stuff from shifting, and now we can go ahead and tack it across the bottom edge. Since it's tacked across that top edge, we can go ahead and tack it all the way around. Basically, you can see how it overhangs on each side. We want to go ahead and baste all the way around the edges, just these three. You're leaving the top open, obviously, because it's a slip pocket. So I personally don't like shifting in my layers. I like to go ahead and tack across the bottom now. And like this waterproof canvas has the rubber backing, so it can be a little sticky on the machine. So I just tacked across there. So you can see what I did, how I tacked it down, and then it's tacked here and here. So I'm actually going to flip this over. So the waterproof canvas side is not up against my bed, and I can see clearly the edge, right? And I'm just going to stitch all the way around in the seam allowance. I'm getting a little stretching and a little movement, so I want to be careful of that. If you don't have a walking foot or a machine that supports that, what you can do to avoid that shifting is one, hold your layers, and then every few stitches, lift your foot. That will avoid your material rolling under the foot and like the roll building up. So do you kind of see, I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a little pucker wanting to build up. I just lift the foot, press the material out. Teflon foot would also help here. I'm just not using one. This Ottertex really is quite sticky. You can buy, like I would on this foot, but I usually use this one on my industrial machine, so I don't worry about it. I don't have that problem. The bed on the industrial is not as sticky as this bed. This bed is really slick, so like I get quite a bit of like drag. I don't know, I figured you could hear it, but I don't think you can. So anyway, a piece of Teflon tape on the bottom of this foot is what I was going to say would help with all that stickiness. So what I'm going to do now, I went ahead and I tacked this all the way around. I do have a tiny little pucker here that it's so minuscule, like we're not even squishing it out with my finger. It like disappears. So I'm not going to worry about that. No one will know. I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to trim all this excess off of this canvas following the line around the edge. And then that way I'll have a nice clean piece to sew with. So you can do slip pockets on both of the interiors like this if you want to. You can do a zippered pocket on one, a slip pocket on the other, none. But I really just favor a slip pocket on small bags. I have big hands and a big phone, and I just find a zippered pocket on a really small bag, even this one increased to 120%, I can't get into it well. That zipper pocket becomes like a little, you know, it becomes too small for me to get my hand in. It's like a little trap. So this is what I meant by trim it off. And then now we're just going to treat it like the pocket doesn't even exist. It's just one layer. So now that I've done that, I'm going to baste it onto the back of, I like mine up against the body. So if you imagine the bag is like this, and then the front panel is here. So this is the back panel. So I'm going to baste it to the back panel like this, wrong sides together. You can clip this if you want to. I don't treat it the exact same way. I start at the bottom, lining up all the corners and basting as I go. On something like this, I actually, again, without the walking foot, if I'm getting any kind of like issues, I'll start in the middle and baste from the middle and then stop like you just saw me do and start over on this side then. That helps avoid the material like building up under the pressure of the foot as you go and moving along with you as you go. So if you have an issue with layer shift, that's my advice on that one. Okay, so we're going to repeat that exact process of basting around the edges on the other liner and exterior panel because I'm doing full binding. I've just decided I do not like birthing this bag. If you have excess around the edges, I have one edge that kind of peeked off a little bit, just one corner. And I also missed the back one when I basted it, so I went a little too far. Going to rebase that corner. I probably don't need to, but I don't like shifting and gapping, and it makes it so much easier when we go to bind it later. So I just want to trim off any excess that's squeezed out or squished away from my front panel because I want the front panel centered. I don't care about the lining panel being, you know, perfect. I want everything perfect according to the front graphic panel. So I trimmed off, you know, very little, but still some nonetheless. So now you're left with that, right? So do that again with your remaining liner piece and your remaining exterior panel. This one is my front panel. That last one was my back panel. Totally forgot to turn off my press. Let's turn that off, shall we? It's hot. We don't need that. So can I tell you guys really quick, I'm really excited about this next project, and I'm doing this one instead because it's faster. But I have been drawing a new SVG for like days that I've been working on it here and there, and I'm doing a light up bag for the first time, and I'm so excited about it. And this is the only hint that I'm giving you, but this is going in the bag. I'm so excited about this bag. And I wanted to do that one instead of this one, but it's going to take me a ton of time because I'm doing the SVG as an applique, and it's a whole front SVG. I'm going to do it on the 120% MAV, I think. I may have to go bigger, not for templates. This bag is just for, you know, for me to sell, to keep. I don't know. But I had this idea, and I've got to get it out of my head. So I had to go and find the light that I needed, and now I'm drawing the SVG to go around the light, and it's a whole thing. So I'm really, really excited about it, and it's going to be an absolute labor of love to do that applique. That applique probably has 40 or 50 pieces on it, yeah, but I'm really, really excited for it. So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited to get my creative mojo going again, and it's definitely going to get done. So I didn't originally intend to draw my own SVG. I was just going to buy one, but this is what always ends up happening, which is why I learned to make SVGs to begin with. There's never what I want. Like, the character I want doesn't exist, the angle that I need doesn't exist, or you buy an SVG file and it's like totally junk. The SVG file doesn't have like the layers that you need or something, so I just started drawing my own in layers. And it'll literally just be what I need it to be. I think I'm completely missing my front layer on this. Maybe not. We'll see. Okay, so, yep, I completely missed that front layer. Well, that's annoying. Okay, well, let's just do it from the front side then. That's what I should have done all along. I kind of missed it only on one part, but easily fixable. And then we got to trim off the extra. I missed it by like a 1/16 of an inch. I hate when that happens. I knew it, but I was like, no, it'll be fine. Okay, there we go. How silly. Okay, and then same deal, just trim off. Like you can see, where I, it just barely missed. So we're going to trim all that green off. Trim, trim, trim. Okay, so yeah, we just don't want our bag, like when you go to bind later, when you do all these layers, any weird little stuff like that will just kind of add extra bulk in there, and it seems trivial, and maybe it is, but I invest way too much time in these bags to like rush through all crazy and then have something silly and sloppy that I could have fixed really easy at the time when I was doing all my basic construction, Okay, so now it's time to start on our zipper gusset, and I am doing the hacked zipper gusset. We'll make this, set it aside, and then we'll do our little D-ring doodle. Whatever you call that little thing. And have my D-ring part of my connector. I just made myself one really long strap out of like scrap. Basically, this was easier to cut. And then I'm just going to cut myself off a length. In fact, let's back up before we do the gusset here. Let's finish this. So let's take this piece. We made ourselves, it's just a quad fold strip, right? Interfaced cotton canvas. Find yourself a piece of it that you like, and literally all we're doing for this hack, you're going to take your main panel, looking at the back, okay? So this is the back outside, and all we're doing, I just kind of take my ruler and eyeball this a bit, but my needle coming unthreaded. About 1.25 inches from the bottom, maybe 2 inches from this bottom part is where I lined it up, kind of like this, and just clip it into place. See how I have a whole bunch of extra over here? I'm going to overhang just a skosh, like 1/4 inch, to make sure I can get this on here well, and then we're going to trim that extra off. So if you're comfortable, you can just line this all the way up from the beginning, but with canvas, it likes to unravel. So I'm leaving an extra little bit off here, and then I'll trim it after. So just line it up from the bottom, make sure it is straight. Ooh, and before you tack it down on both sides, put a D-ring on. I'm just going to put the D-ring on right now and keep it in the middle. But put a D-ring on here, else you're going to be super sad panda if you forget the D-rings. That's the whole point of the strap. So I like the strap method better because it's just less finicky. And then if I want to wear it on the left or right, especially if you're selling these to sell, I just like the idea that you don't have to choose, and you don't have to choose for the customer. Because, some people, they might not like, they might not like being forced to have to wear it a certain way. So let's see, I want my pretty variegated thread. I'm going to do 1 3/4 inches up from the bottom because I like that measurement. That's what I've done on pretty much all the other ones. So that's where I'm headed with it, but you can do whatever. And then I just have this extra piece, and that's what I use as my D-ring tab. It's easier to just make it as one long piece like this. And FYI, if you make bags a lot, I keep a bin of like these kinds of scraps, especially when it's vinyl and it's a solid color, because I hate making these. I hate making straps. So if I have like weird little scraps that are enough, I will make these or make longer ones with that bag and then throw it in the bin. So like later when I need a black one of these out of black vinyl, I already have one. I have a glitter one, I have an accent, whatever. And so if I happen to make another one of these bags, in this canvas, I already have this made. Or, I mean, even a different bag, anything that needs a 1 inch D-ring connector, like, I'm set. I could even make 2 out of this. In fact, cutting it in half, I have just enough there to make 2. So, just, I don't like waste. I'm also a hoarder, and I'm also lazy. Is it really hoarding if you're organized about it, though? Like, I'm pretty organized. I have a bin. And if the bin gets too full, I go through it. I also don't know if you guys do this, but I might challenge myself. Like, I'll find this and be like, okay, what bag can I make using this thing? And then I'll do that. Like, is that weird? It's probably weird. I don't know. It's a thing that I do. Okay, so there's my D-ring. I actually took it off because it was getting in the way of me centering this. I'm going to clip it I'm going to clip it on both sides, and it was knocking into my ruler, so I'm going to clip it on the one side and baste it, and then on the clipped side, I'll go ahead and put the D-ring like back on, if that makes any sense, after I recenter it. So you're literally just basting through all the layers again for this hack. I like to backstitch on that one just because by the time we end up binding this bag, we're going to have sewn through this thing like 9 different ways to Sunday. So I'm not convinced it's going to come off, but you just don't know. So slip that D-ring on there. I gave this tip the other night. You'll need something that will go on, you know, canvas if you're doing that, but you can washi tape this down into the middle so that it doesn't end up over here if it moves really easy in your seam allowance. Because if you get a needle strike on this, it's going to be bad times. So I would say even painter's tape something down the middle that you don't get into your seam right here, but to hold this, because sometimes this one is pretty freely sliding. So just a thought for you. Just re-examine, make sure if the one side shifted, just make sure the opposite side shifts with it. This one didn't shift, so I need to make sure I'm sticking with my 1 3/4 because that's there we go, 1 3/4. So there's that. And then we'll sew this guy on. I do really like this variegated thread. I kind of see why people use it on like every single bag now. I kind of dig it. I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, it's a little ostentatious, but I kind of like it. And Wizardry Stitchery has, oh my gosh, I was at their booth at a recent vendor show where I bought this thread actually, and the purple too, and a couple of other colors. And man, they have a lot of colors of variegated thread, like every iteration you could think of. Red, purple, they have like a candy corn. They've got like 3 different versions of rainbow, like rainbow pastel, rainbow primary colors, and rainbow like other colors, teal, and all kinds of stuff. So this is the point of the slider. Now when you make the bag, you can put it back here and have it here too. So I really like the little slider guy. Hi Kathy, she says, I wish I were smart enough to draw my own SVGs. Losing my eyesight to macular degeneration, and my scan and cut is a lifesaver. I bet the scan and cut really does make it a lot easier. I'm sure it does. As far as smarts, I don't know, because I'm really not that tech savvy, and I don't consider myself all that, you know, I don't think I'm dumb, but I don't think I'm that smart. It's not hard. I use an iPad and an Apple Pencil because we're a Mac house, and I just literally draw in layers. Each layer, like the way my brain works, if it's going to get cut in like black, that's a separate layer. So I draw the black parts in black on a layer, and then I switch to another layer, and then I go ahead and you know, draw the next one. If those pieces are going to be red, I draw it in red on a separate layer, and then I treat each one of those layers that I draw as a separate file, if that makes sense. I mean, they're all in one file, but then when I go into like a program like Cricut or whatever, I can separate all the layers. So it cuts right. Because I don't know about you guys, but if I sometimes go on Etsy and buy an SVG, it says that it's layered vector art, but like there's no layers. You can't cut separate layers. So it's like, well, the face is like part of the hand is part of the thing, but they're all different colors. How do I cut different layers? And I can't stand that. So there's just a lot of junk files on Etsy where they literally just took clip art and put it through Pic SVG. So technically it's a vector art, but it's not a layered vector art, if that makes any sense. And for a cutting machine, you need layers when we're talking about appliques. So anyway, I started drawing my own, and I literally just, you know, you can take your own clip art or your own thing and turn it into one of those layered SVGs by drawing all the things separate if you're able to do that. And it's just, you know, then it comes down to, can you draw or trace or both or whatever. Melissa said they're the only thread I use. The Groovy is my favorite neon rainbow. I don't know. I have one called Phoenix Fire from them. And I can't, the other one's up there on the shelf. And I can't, and I think I have Unicorn Main. And then I have Villainous, because I have some for my industrial and I have some for this machine too. So I use their thread, and I also use the Saya Swag thread. And I'll be honest, I'm sure there is a difference, but I don't see one. I don't like one over the other. If one of them is out of stock on a color, I will go to Kasaya and buy that. They both have really fast fulfillment time, good customer service, good product. So I like them both. But I do have more of the Wizardry because they had more colors first. So I bought a lot more from them. But my favorite maroon that I use all the time, I can't see it up there. I think she calls it apple cinnamon or something. Apple something. Kasaya, and I really like that one. So, anyway, at this point you should have your slip pocket done, your back ring, your whole back panel, and we're going to do the little doodad on the top here so we don't forget it. So you'll need your two little trapezoids and our extra piece here, and I'm going to cut this. I have pretty fat D-rings. Oh, am I short a D-ring? That's okay. I have them right here, I think. That's weird. I think I only grabbed one D-ring from my stash, so I just need another one. Not like I have any shortage of hardware around here, y'all. That's the thing about starting a hardware business. I never really anticipated, A, how much time I don't have to use the hardware, and B, I have hardware coming out of my ears, but I like never have the hardware I need. I mean, I do, but it's just never where I think it is or like where I want it to be. Here we go. There's one. I was gonna say, and it drives me a little nuts. Like, you know, you just saw a D-ring, but the problem is you're looking at 7,000 D-rings all the time in 6 different colors, 2 different sizes. I can never keep straight like what I just saw or where I was or what I was doing. It's a bit much. Okay, so I'm just gonna like loosey-goosey measure. This part has rainbow, not rainbow, but like the variegated thread on it. So I'm gonna use that part. I don't like that Shrek-ear look, but on this we have to be a little careful how we cut this, because we need enough clearance to keep our D-ring out of the seam allowance. So, you know, you can't get like too all up in here or else it makes it really hard to do on this part. Yeah, Melissa, this is the 120 size. So 120%. And then it's important to know, because I've seen this question a bit on like Facebook and stuff in the groups and elsewhere. Your bag size increases, but my hardware didn't get 20% bigger. I'm still using my hardware at 100%. So you're not going to change the D-ring tabs. You can use bigger hardware if you want to. I don't. I just keep with the 1 inch and then I do the 1.5 inch strap, but you know, you can do whatever. But the D-ring here doesn't grow 20%. So I'm not going to change this piece, and I don't change, you know, my connector, and I'm not changing the strap size, those pieces. So like when you enlarge your pattern pieces, this piece that goes on the strap, you're not going to enlarge that because your webbing is the same size, right? Like that doesn't change. So the only pieces you have to increase are your gusset pieces, your main body and your liners, and then, you know, your pocket, I suppose, if you're doing like zipper or whatever, and that's kind of a personal preference, because you could leave it the same size and just have a smaller pocket on the bag. So, really up to you. First thing I like to do, I don't know if I want to put the Beetlejuice or the little ghosts on the front. Kind of want the little ghost because I think once I sew all this, Beetlejuice is just going to be like an eyeball. So I think I'll put him on the back. So I want to make sure that this is centered here. And I like to baste mine in place. Obviously you don't have to, but I just like to make sure that this is where I want it, how I want it, and then I don't have to deal with, because this is a bear to clip, this whole piece. So yeah, I've now made one of these. This is my first one at 120%. I've made 2 original sized, and one 115%. I really like the 115, and on the 115 I did a whole bunch of hacks, but I also, it looks pretty good. It's not as center as I want it to be, and I guess I could cut that, but like I don't think I'm going to. It's off by like a 1/16 of an inch, but I can tell. But by the time I get my seam allowances and stuff all good, I think it'll be fine. Don't even think anybody will notice. My seam allowance will probably be off by a 1/16 of an inch, so it's probably fine. If I just take a slightly bigger seam allowance on this side and a slightly smaller one on the other side, it'll be fine. Anyway, the only kind of thing that I didn't do, and it wasn't detrimental, what it meant was the zipper gusset, when I did that, it just turned out thinner, so it ended up being a 1/2 inch smaller, like skinnier than I wanted it to be. It was the right length, it just wasn't the right width. So it was fine, but I ended up with a skinnier gusset. But let me tell you, I actually really kind of liked it, because I have a lot of curves and a lot of chest. I'm a pretty broad female, and like I have wide shoulders and stuff, wide hips, and it made me feel a bit weird with the original Mav, how much it stuck off of me because of my chest and all that. It pushed out a lot. So I made the skinnier, just slightly skinnier gusset, and I like how it kind of lays on my body a little smaller. And you wouldn't think that a 1/2 inch would make that much difference, but let me tell you, it sure did. It did not look, as much like it was sticking off kind of funky, and it felt a little more comfortable to me. So if anybody's having that problem, I might urge you to make your gusset a little skinnier. You might like it better. Okay, so these are the 2 kind of finickiest edges to me, because you have to kind of squash it to make your edges line up to fit around your D-ring. So last but not least, you got to go across the top, and that's pretty easy. It's a little thick, so get yourself a hump jumper if you need to, and you want to go all the way across. And by the way, it's 1/4 inch seam allowances everywhere on this bag. I don't have a hump jumper and I always lose it, so this is my tip to you. I always have clothespins around. Break a clothespin in half. Take the spring out of it. It's the best hump jumper in the world. It's super thin and it fits right underneath here. I've been doing it for years. It's literally my favorite, and I have them all over the place. And honestly, it's pretty hard not to break a clothespin. If you squeeze it too hard, it like breaks all over. So I need my hump jumper because it's getting upset about the thickness on this. Come on, dummy. Now, if I don't sew this thing, good grief. Rude. Okay, well, there you go. Millionth time is the charm. Jeez. Could get through there. Okay, and so then the next thing I like to do before I pull this out, I like to scoop my corners right here. It's not much, but it really makes a huge difference. When I say scoop, instead of cutting straight across, go on the edge of the stitch. I hope you can kind of see this. Maybe I can do it like to the back of the screen so you can see. I don't know. I'll try to keep that on screen. We have 2 chances. I do this and I kind of come in and I scoop it out. Do you see how I made like a scoop there? It's like a little tiny bite out of a tiny sandwich. With how tight this corner is and how small it is, it really helps versus a straight across line, because we're taking as much volume out of that corner as possible. I did not cut my stitches. That's really important to note. I didn't cut the stitches. You really don't want to, with how small this is. You just don't have enough like anything left here, you know, you just want to be careful. So then I also start by kind of turning this edge under like this. Then I'll grab the D-ring and then I use that to pull the rest of it out. That's how I turn these. They're a little fiddly and it's a bit difficult. Could be worse. And then I'm going to take the blunt end of my seam ripper stiletto, close it up, and I'm just going to use that to poke my little corners out. Just do the best you can with this one. If you need something a little bit more sharp but still blunt, you can actually use your little clothespin. That little corner sometimes helps. I like to take my time on this step too because this is right at the tip top of your bag. So you really want to make sure it looks, you know, decent. It's kind of perched right up there on top, and if it doesn't look good. So now I don't know which one I want to be the front face. I've got ghosts on ghosts, little ghosts here, little ghosts there, or I have this one where I have the Beetlejuice face, which is actually pretty good, and then I don't know what that is. Looks like just some swirly stuff. And I do have like the purple and green thread right there. I don't know. So Melissa says she's been waiting to try the 120%, haven't printed it out yet. She's done a few normal sized, but she switched to the Pebble Sling by Can Do. Yeah, I actually think I saw that one recently. One of them, somebody just released something that I was like, wow, that's basically a math pack. And it was just released like, I feel like last week, maybe the week prior. So that was kind of interesting to me. And I haven't, you know, moved away from that. Obviously, I don't know if everybody knows this or if you're like this, but I don't always do it, but I kind of tend to hyperfixate on patterns. If I either love it or I hate it, I'm kind of no in between. And if I love it, I will make like 50 of them. And I'll make them in every iteration because I get so inspired by the blank canvas. I'm like, oh, I could make that. I could make this. Ooh, I could make one that looks like that. So I'm kind of in that realm right now for two reasons. One, I'm making the templates, so I want to make sure all the iterations of the templates are good. And I want to make sure all of my hack templates work well. But then on top of it, I do just really like the pattern. So I want to make sure that, you know, I'm just getting the most out of it and making sure that, oh, hey, if I come up with another hack or something that I think will be useful while I'm making these, I want to make sure I can deliver that, I guess, you know. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And I've just been having a lot of fun making Mavs. And to me, there's also something that, like, I really love that feeling. I feel very accomplished. Like, probably way too accomplished when I can make a pattern from memory without having to look at the pattern at all. Like, I can just pull the pieces together, pull it out, design one, sew it up, and do it, you know, quick. I feel very, like I've got mastery of it, right? I want to check my battery, which of course I can't see. Don't show me that. Oh, that's weird. Okay, well, for some reason I turned the camera around and now it turned back, so that was weird. You guys got a little view of my Funko Pops there. I don't know what my battery is. That's frightening. Let me see what happens when I touch. There? Nope. Okay, well, hopefully, I don't know. The phone usually flashes up and tells me, like, in red, oh, hey, you're out of battery. So hopefully, if that's the case, I mean, I'll plug it in. I have a charger. Okay, so now we've made our little dealer. What I just did while I was talking to you is I top stitched around the edge. Take that same back panel, and now you're going to baste this up at the top into the middle. And you do want to make sure, you know, this is pretty centered. es important. I kind of think I want the little Beetlejuice face on the front. It is a little creepy, but I mean, come on, it's a Beetlejuice bag. He's the ghost with the most. Oh my gosh, knock it off. Okay. So, because I don't want this to shift, I'm going to start in the middle and baste out from here. Okay. So I basically just did that backward. That way I don't get shifting. As much anyway. So, okay, now we can set this aside because our back panel is fully done. I'm going to set it aside with the front. Now we can work on the zipper gusset. So you'll need your 2 skinny strips. I'm doing the split gusset hack. So there's a little whatever involved with that. I've got 2 innards and 2 outers. And then I have my zipper with my pulls already on. Put your pulls on right now so you don't forget. Please and thank you. And then the only other thing you should have left over are the 2 large gusset pieces. And we're going to make this whole, and you'll have the strap pieces too, but I haven't done that yet. So we're going to start off with our zipper and just pick 1 in and 1 out. I personally like to make little zipper sandwiches. If they're really skinny, narrow pieces like this, I use double-sided tape because then I don't have to worry. If it's a thicker gusset, I can clip, but this is too close together for me. So I just start with my pretty paste here, and I'm going to take a long run of zipper tape, and I'm going to start right at the edge. I keep it way, way, way out on the edge. I can sew through this tape. I choose not to sew through any tape whenever it's avoidable because I just like to keep it out of my seam allowances. That's really more of a personal preference. So I just run it edge to edge on there. You could put it on this too, but I just, put it on the edge here. So doing that, and then I'm going to take my zipper and I'm going to just lay it from one end down to the other. It's a little difficult to do because I can't really see super well. I also personally like to move my zipper pulls out of the way once it's kind of bonded because I do find you get like a weird little hump a lot of times, especially if they're bigger zipper pulls. And if you have a problem with wavy zippers, I highly suggest you move yours out of the way. It works best for me, and then I don't get a weird drunken zipper. So at this stage, if you like, you can baste. Thank you, Jamie. I like the color too. It's my business colors and the color of my studio. You can see it's over there on my bins too. I love the color. And it's different. Excuse me. Anyway, you can baste at this stage if you want to. I like to just sandwich, and I'll either use another piece of double stick tape, or since this one is stuck, I don't know, I might just wing it. I'm not sure how I feel about that because this OtterTex is good. It's, rubbery style OtterTex, but it's a little fiddly. So I might just put a second piece on here. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to sandwich our zipper. So we're going to flip over to the other side, and you'd use another piece of double stick tape here. And then you're going to sandwich the pretty side. And you can double check your work on your zipper. Let's pretend that this is stuck down right now. By pulling this back. And what you should see is the ugly side of your zipper with the pretty side of your canvas. Then if you do the same thing on the opposite side, you should see pretty zipper, pretty canvas. Right? So imagine like it's a, fully assembled bag. And if you are in doubt, check your work because it totally stinks to have to seam rip the whole thing and have it be, you know, off. That's the worst. I think I'm just going to clip. I don't think this is fiddly enough that I have to use more double stick tape. So I'm just going to clip all the way down. That works for me. And these are really big zipper pulls, and I did double, so I'm going to move them. I've already been assembling with my foot on, so I don't have to swap to my zipper foot. But if you don't have your zipper foot on, put your zipper foot on. This helps a ton. And by the way, I totally forgot. I'm doing binding, but I'm also going to do piping on this bag because I just love the look of the Mav with piping, and I have purple piping. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to tuck my piping on the front panel. I'm not making it this time. I've pre-bought piping. Let me grab my package. Oh, I lied. I have purple binding and lime green piping. So we're going to tuck that on our front panel. I totally forgot about piping. I love the Mav with piping, and if you guys are scared to try piping, use your zipper foot. There are special piping foots, but they're just a fatter version of the zipper foot. You can use the zipper foot, and I'll show you how to do the piping. It is not hard. I did a video the other night, a live stream, making your own piping, so y'all can watch that one if you want to make your own. That's not hard. You can buy vinyl piping, and you can buy cotton piping. I'm using cotton piping tonight because we're going like full-on domestic friendly. So anyway, I love piping on like almost any bag, but I really love it on the Mav. I think it's just pretty. I'm swapping my direction here because I don't want this OtterTex on this machine specifically. It really sticks to the bed. Just on the rubbery, sticky side. So, quarter inch all the way down. Move those zippers when you get to them. Careful not to zip them off your panel. This one is okay. We can fix it if we needed to, because we don't have a tab on, but just always a good lesson. Don't zip off your zipper. Okay, I'm at the end so I can just hold these. I don't need to keep it clipped. Okay, so again, double checking our work. I've got the ugly side of the zipper, pretty side of my canvas, and then if I pull this, because what you end up doing is pulling these two layers here. I'm in Texas, Jamie, just outside of Dallas. Just outside of Dallas. I'm about, 35 minutes from Dallas or so. So I'm still considered, you know, part of DFW for sure. My husband commutes into Dallas every day. And we moved out here from Dallas proper into our little suburb. So it used to be the sticks. Now it's less of the sticks, but still kind of the sticks. We're pretty. Oh, Finney, so you're in Plano. So then you may know. I don't know. I say the name of this town and people are like, what? We're down in Midlothian. So we're just south of Cedar Hill, like right after you leave Cedar Hill. I mean, we're like 2 exits past Cedar Hill. We're not far. We're right off of, you take 35 to 67 to 287, and you're on 287 for like 8 seconds, and then you just get off and we're right there. So basically 35 to 67. So that's us. That's where we be. I'm very familiar with Plano. I used to be in a like lunch group that met up there all the time. Plano, Allen, McKinney, when I was in Dallas proper. And I'm originally from Grand Prairie, and we did live there for a time too, but I swear, we're like serial movers. We're terrible. Heard of it, but I never go that way. Yes, I am going to be at the Quilt Expo. I'm very excited to be at OSQE. I've attended before, but not as a vendor. So far, they've been really excellent company to work with. So I'm excited to go and be a part of that show. Shanna and Andy from Glitterbug Fairy are going to be there. And then Tanya, 35 minutes outside of Dallas sounds like a George Strait song. It sure does. It sure does. And believe me, I mean, a lot of Dallas is too. But down here where I live, it is certainly like George Strait country. I like country music for sure. I was never a George Strait fan. I'm more of an Alan Jackson kind of person myself. Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, Randy Travis. And of course, like Reba and Shania. But yeah, it's totally like truck country down here. It's very, tons of farms, really AG aggro down here. So yeah, I'm sure if there was a song about it, it would be about this town for sure. It's nice, it's quiet down here, but I do miss Dallas. I miss all the food and the shopping, and the good news is I'm like literally across the street from a Joann's. Like I could walk from my house to Joann's in like 10 minutes, and it's a good Joann's. So now, granted, I was in Dallas next to the flagship Joann's store, but we're not going to talk about that. I want that to line up better. There you go. So anyway, yes, I'm excited to go to OSQE. I probably should have gotten a bigger booth. I only got a 15-footer, but I wasn't sure, and now I'm regretful. So if it goes well next year, I'll have a much, much bigger booth, because I usually do, 30-footers, sometimes a 20, and I wasn't sure. And I kind of regret that now. It's like, well, I could have gone bigger, but, it's fine. Yeah, I think this way will be good. So this time I'm probably just going to put the double stick tape on here. But yeah, I'm excited for the stuff I'm going to have. I have a whole ton of webbing coming for the show. So 1.5-inch webbing I will have for sure. I've got a whole ton of zipper tape. I've got some new zipper pulls. I will have new woven tags at that time, including the ones that I just released, but I'll have a brand new batch of all new designs. Of course, I'll have hardware. I'll have templates. I'll have my acrylic tools that I'm, kind of famous for, my zipper templates and stuff. So it should be a really good expo. And then I know that Shanna from Glitterbug Fairy is going to be there for sure. Like, this waterproof canvas is hers, this OtterTex, and I love it. I love all the colors she has. She'll have Mav panels. I know she and I are working together on some collaborations. So I've got some new zipper pulls, and she has made some panels to go with those cute zipper pulls. Jamie said, are you going to the Plano Expo? I did not know that there was a Plano Expo. Which Plano Expo? You'll have to tell me about that, because I wasn't aware that there was a Plano Expo. And I guess the answer is no, because I don't know about it, but I can go scope it out this year for sure, and then maybe next year. I was not aware that we had a Plano Expo for sewing, so that's interesting. Anyway, I do use Joann's fabric on my bags on the exteriors all the time too. It depends on what I'm making, but yeah, I use it for the liner. I use it for pockets. I have a ton of Joann's fabric. It's definitely, it's not as nice as like custom fabric, but I'll tell you right now, I mean, I've been making bags for years, and my most popular bags are made out of Joann's fabrics. which is great for me because the margins are a lot better. I used to buy this Harry Potter fabric, y'all, that I bought it by the bolt. I have a bolt of it around here somewhere because I didn't want it to go. It was my most favorite, most popular, I should say, amongst my customers. And so, yeah, it's just crazy how popular that print was. So I would literally go and buy it by the bolt with like coupons and stuff. And I still have a ton of it because that's how much of it I sold. And yeah, I use Joann's fabric all the time. I never had a problem with it. You know, it's $8 a yard quality instead of $23 a yard quality, but the bags always held up great. I just interfaced like I normally would, just like this cotton and all that. So yeah. So you say it's August 11th through 12th at the Plano Event Center. And it's sewing related. Do you know do you know the name of it or who puts it on, Jamie? I've never heard of that one. But it's in August, so trying to think. That might be the weekend right before OSQE. I don't know if I could shoehorn that in, but I might be able to because I don't have to travel very, far at all. My husband will murder me. But maybe I can go. I was not aware that we even had one up there. Seriously, that's hilarious. I'll have to look into that. Plano, August 11th through 12th. Put on by the Plano Quilt Guild. That's interesting. So I wonder, is it all like quilting then? Because, as much as I just quilted this bag tonight, but that's about as much quilting as I get up to these days. But yeah, I would be super, super interested in that. I'm glad that you said something because I never would have known. No idea. And I wonder how many years that's been going on and I've missed it. Okay, so now that's our zipper gusset. I did have some slightly uneven edges that kind of moved around on me a little bit. Probably because I wasn't using enough tape and all that, but it's fine. We're not too far off, so I'm not super concerned about it. This one, though, it's just longer than everything else. And this one is a little bit shorter, so I'm going to even them out, but I'm not taking off very much. And you got to be careful doing that, by the way, on a round bag with curves. You can't take off too much. But we'll top stitch this one first, and then I'll take it over to my rotary, cutter and my acrylic, whatever I'm trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say. The thing that we use to cut the other things. I'll take it over there, and I'll measure it, and I'll cut the things. Oh, that's backwards. That's backwards. I like to keep the edge, the straight edge of the foot up against like the edge that I'm sewing, top stitching, and it gives me really consistent results. So that's what's happening there. Hopefully my math did a little better this time. It looks better. I don't have quite such a skinny, weird little gusset. Last time I did all this math, yes, it does look correct. It looks perfect. So I do want to just even up my edges. If you're more than like a total of 1/8 of an inch off, don't go trimming stuff. Like this side, the one back piece is just a little longer, but all the other edges match up. And this one, I'm just off by that much. It's just a little bit crooked, so I'm going to trim it a tiny bit. You don't want to trim too much off because that's going to mess with your seam allowance. Not your seam allowance, your gusset allowance to ease the whole thing in around the curves, right? So you do not want to go ham trimming a ton off here. So I just trimmed maybe a 1/16 of an inch on the one side, and then the other side I'm not actually trimming anything except for the extra length in the back. So I just trimmed the tiniest bit to clean all this up, right? So it just looks a little cleaner. So now what we're going to do with the zipper gusset, we're going to take our pretty side of all of this, pretty side of our main body, line up our short edges. I'm just going to apply like 2 or 3 clips. If you're using directional fabric, be mindful of like, you know, how the directions are going. Oops. So you don't get something the way that you don't want it to be, backward or not matching up with the rest of your stuff. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sandwich here, canvas, pretty side of my canvas here up against the pretty side of the canvas here, but it's the ugly side of the zipper, right? So just make yourself a little gusset sandwich. And then we're sewing down that at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Get under that foot. That is the one thing about the zipper foot. The thread can be a little fiddly, and if your machine tends to kind of like eat thread, you want to pull tails to make sure it stays out of the way. So just keep all that straight and lined up. Then we're going to 1/4 inch all the way down this thing, and I'm going to put, once again, the canvas up so I don't have to deal with it. I can feel it sticking on the bed as soon as I put it down the wrong way. It's like, oh, I feel it sticking. And while it does stick to the foot the tiniest bit, it sticks to the bed really bad. Just this machine though, because I used it the other night on my industrial and it didn't stick at all. So I'm not really sure why that is a thing, but it is. I think because this one is so glossy, it's like a really high gloss, because my domestic has a plastic bed. It's just this one. Let me see. Jamie says it's mostly quilt fabric, but also lots of thread notions, rulers. I'm sure they'd appreciate a bag making vendor. There's 50 vendors. Millie's Design Co. will be there if you know her. She sells cork. I've heard of that company. I don't know why, because I don't really do a lot with cork. Maybe I've just heard people like mention. But that's interesting, you know. I will send an email, see if I can find their info and send an email, because I mean, I'm interested. I'm close enough that it's like, well, it seems kind of silly not to. So by the way, what we're doing now is we're just gonna take this little guy here. We're lining up our short edges on the other side, and then we're gonna turn the whole thing, you know, all right side out to get it all correct. So main body to main body, canvas to canvas, pretty sides of the main body together, pretty sides of the canvas together. And that's how we're doing that. I'm like double checking myself now, like, wait, is that right? But it is. I'm sure it is. I'm pretty sure it is. Oh, and then this thing is like all wiggly, does not want to cooperate with me. Come on. And after that, we're going to baste all the way around all the edges. I love to just baste any gusset like this because I am not fooling around with shifting on something like that when I'm binding and attaching. Like, no, there's way too many layers at that point, and that will frustrate me to no end. So just double check. Oh, and I'm sorry, before we baste, actually, we're going to fold back these. I'm sorry, I have thread I'm getting caught in like these little hairs. Okay, so we're gonna fold all this back out. And we're gonna spread everything and just make sure we're all good to go, right? So we fold this, make sure it's all fitting and easing together nicely, and it all just, you know, fits the way that it should. And if it doesn't, we make adjustments because, you know, sometimes things stretch. My liner is a little loose. I don't love that. But sometimes it looks that way until we turn everything, and then it's all right. So let me double check. I'm going to just look at this. And if I need to trim that liner down, I'm going to do it now because I hate a baggy liner. So let me see what happens if I kind of start to massage this a little bit in the round. Nope, if I massage it, it's fine. So all I did was stretch it, and you see how immediately it already looks like, it looks baggy right now. There's a big pucker, but when I start to kind of play with it a little bit, immediately it starts to, see how nice it sits now? I just needed to seat it. So don't go cutting stuff if, like, you know. I'm glad you're printed out at 120%. It's a good size bag. Again, at the 115, I like that better than the original, and I'm thinking I'm going to like the 120%, but you know, we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to hate it, that's for sure. And it's a fun bag. It's a really good, I mean, look at this canvas at 120%. There is so much you can do with this big flat space. So many things you can put on here. Applique, fussy cut a character, panels, because this is a good size for like a small child art panel. So if you have panels you need to use, like, this is perfect. If you have a large scale fabric where, like, this is kind of a medium scale, I'd say, but like a large scale with a repeat, you can fussy cut a character and like highlight something easy. Use your, you know, scraps of your good custom fabric, and then do the whole thing in solid vinyl. And it's very impressive and very easy and very fun. So that's what I'm really enjoying about this bag. So by the way, before we top stitch, or before we baste, I want to top stitch right here on both edges. So let's do that. Top stitching away, obviously, from the zipper. Just pulling all that extra stuff out of there. There we go, bobbin thread. Sticking up like a little alfalfa sprout. I do just want to make sure everything stays straight while I top stitch. Yeah, I was considering that other applique one that I'm talking about that I'm kind of keeping a little secret with my light. I was considering doing that on Facebook Live, but I promise you guys, you will be so bored. Applique with that many pieces. Because I painstakingly go around and I will hand crank. I have a tiny seam allowance and I do every single little piece if you've ever seen any of my applique work. And I love doing it. It's very cathartic and like therapeutic, and just it relaxes me and the way it comes together, but it takes forever. The front of that bag to applique it will probably take me 6 hours. So I'll spend just a day doing that, and then I won't probably touch that bag for a week. It'll take me longer to do that applique than it will to do anything else. It just will. And that's probably one of the more complicated ones I've done. A lot of my other ones are like pretty, you know, they're probably 12 pieces. This one is, it could easily end up having 50 pieces. I'm not quite done with the SVG. So obviously, I hope in the end it's impressive and it turns out really cool. I have no idea. I may need to do the Mav as a backpack and make it a little bigger. I had planned to do it at 120%, but now that I'm seeing this front panel at 120%, I don't know if it's going to be big enough to house like this light. Maybe, but I think it's going to be too small, so I might do this at 150% and I'll just make it a backpack instead. But yeah, like, look how cool that's going to be. Not for this bag. Again, totally different thing, but I'm really excited about it. Whenever I can get to that. Won't be for a little while yet. So, okay, we've top stitched, and now we're going to go ahead and baste this long edge all the way around and this long edge all the way around, just around the loop. I will change to a based seam allowance at this point, or not a seam allowance, a stitch length, excuse me, because from now on, I'm just going to be assembling using that because I'm doing binding, and I'm going to stitch through this bag so many times on the same seams at this point. Between basting and actual stitching, we're going to end up with a teeny tiny seam allowance, if that makes sense. Like, we're going to stitch it once and then stitch it again and stitch it again with the binding method. So trust me, it's going to be attached, and it's a lot faster and easier to do it on the longer stitch length. So get my needle down there and get myself lined up a little better. Keeping your seam allowance on this one as best as you can. These are 1/4 inch seam allowance, so it's really, really narrow because you will see it later if you don't, even with our binding. So keep pretty darn close to the edge if you can. In my opinion, there is nothing sexier as far as bags go than super clean, nice, beautiful binding. And it's not hard to do, but you got to pay, attention. These little zippers out of the way. Once I remember how to work this machine, I really do enjoy it. It is just a really nice machine. Of course, every time I say that out loud, it starts acting up. But not really. But, that's just the law. That's how that works. But I really do enjoy this machine. I think it's really nice. I think it was great for the money. I really love the amount of light under here. It was not a super spendy as far as sewing machines go purchase, much cheaper than the HD9, and this is made by the same company and has a lot of the same features. So if you're in the market for an HD9, I haven't published this last one yet, but I've been doing machine unboxing and reviews on the channel. So I've done 2 so far, a Brother and a Juki. This is the last one that I unboxed and reviewed, and obviously it's the one that I kept. Spoiler alert. And you'll see all the reasons why. And obviously, if you can't tell by my work when I'm working with it here, that's why. It's just a good machine, and it was a great price. So I'm super happy with it. I had considered the HD9, but especially at the time, the price was up to like $2,900, and I just was like, no, I already have an industrial, so I don't need that. That's crazy for me. And I've made lots of vinyl bags and stuff on this. It can handle a lot, so I'm totally happy with it. My phone has flashed up and said it's dying yet, so hopefully it's not. It's really weird in this mode when I have you guys turned horizontally. I can't see the battery. So hopefully we're okay. We're only 2 hours in on this, and usually it can live stream for quite a bit longer. But I do get a little worried. Okay, so now that we have gone all the way around this, we basted all the edges, we see how nice everything sits here. So my math worked on the gusset here at least. So that's good to know. Now I need to ease it into any one of the sides. You can start on the front or the back panel, whichever one you want to do. And you basically need to clip and ease this sucker onto the bag, and you're going, once this is done, you're gonna turn it, right? So our canvas, I almost put mine on upside down the other night, by the way. So find your 2 seams, put them in the middle like this, find your center top and cut a notch there. Same with the bottom on both sides, do it right now. This way you have that, and then don't put it on upside down, because I literally almost did. It was like a miracle that I even realized I had done it, because I had already started clipping it. So don't put your gusset on upside down. You are going to be so sad. You're going to have a bad time. Oh, and you know what? I just realized I still haven't done my stinking piping on the front panel, so I'm going to cut this. And then I'm going to set it aside, and I'm going to do my piping, because I really want that piping. I love piping. Plus, I have lime green piping. Like, what else am I going to do with lime green piping? It's begging to be put on a Beetlejuice bag. Okay, let's set this aside. Let's get our main front panel. Piping is super quick and easy, especially when you pre-make it, and once you've done it like once, it's so fast. And cotton piping is even nicer because it's thin, so you don't have to fiddle with it like the vinyl. Oh man, my nose is still runny. Oy. I don't normally have allergies, but I swear whenever I get on camera, my nose is just like dying. I mean, you'll never hear me sneeze, so like I don't think it's any of that. It's just my nose gets runny. Okay, just get that off there, get that out of the way. Okay, so I always like to start at the bottom, and I basically just, you go in with the piping. You've got the piping and you've got this little edge, how you sew it down. We have 1/4 inch seam allowance on this. We basically already took most of it. So I like to put the edge of my piping just above this seam allowance, because you want it sandwiched really tight in that seam allowance. It's important, otherwise you get loose looking piping and it's icky looking. Let me explain to you what I mean about loose or tight. So let's check this one. I think it's got good visibility on camera. This is one I made the other night. Do you see how the piping is like in that seam and it's really tight? Like I can't push it back and see any kind of stitching in there. That's what we're looking for. If it's loose, it's when we don't get close enough to it and this is sticking off. Does that make sense? We want this rounded look where it kind of pushes out and it's really nestled in that seam. And the way we get that is basically by putting our edge in. You're going in toward the middle of the bag first of all. So put the pretty edge, not the raw one, in toward the middle of the bag. I don't even bother clipping this. I just get it lined up under my foot and start going around. I kind of put it around my neck like a tie and let it dangle a little bit here. That helps just to keep it out of the way and keep it in your lap. It also helps, by the way, if you are doing this for the first time, don't use contrasting thread to install piping because you might see it. Because mine is pretty variegated, I might be okay, but use something that blends in. So what you want to do, I have these basting lines that I used earlier. I'm going to place my piping just above the pretty part of the piping, just above the line. I might be able to like zoom you guys in a little bit, maybe. Okay, hopefully maybe that's a little better for you to see, and because I'm probably not doing a great job of explaining this. We're going to start off by poking this out the bottom of the bag. So we're going to cut the extra off. Line up, you want the side where the needle comes down and the flat side of the foot. Where the needle comes down on the zipper foot, that should be up against this fat part of the piping, right? So we kind of go toward the middle of our bag, which is about here. Start that off like that. I'm going to just put 1 or 2 stitches in. Back stitching to keep it in place. Now I'm gonna rotate, and I'm basically gonna put there's like a line of stitching here on the piping. I'm gonna put that line of stitching just above these base lines I was taking, because these base lines are about 1/8 of an inch and we're doing 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and this will ensure that our piping is nice and sandwiched in that look that we were asking for earlier, right? So I backstitch just to keep this in place. I'm going to put my foot back down. I'm going to stitch over this little part. See how I made that 90? That's just to keep it poking out of the bottom. We're going to cut it off later. So we're going to start just stitching all the way around basically, and I'm just keeping this lined up so it's right at the edge of that 1/4 inch, where that 1/4 inch seam allowance is going to be. It's really important not only that we do this, but we pivot around through our curves nicely and still keep the curve of the pattern, because you don't want to lose your curves here on this portion of the piping. You're still going to see all of this when you eventually sew your bag later. And this piping sort of essentially becomes our seam allowance, like our seam guide a bit. But do you kind of understand what I'm doing here? There's some extra here, that's fine. But do you see how I've basically got a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance on the edge of the bag here where I've laid this down? So that's how you do piping, and you just go all the way around, and then I'll show you how to terminate it. Top part is easy. That's a pretty big broad curve. I hope you can also see that I'm stitching really close to the edge of that piping so it's not loose. We don't want it to be loose. We want our stitching to be really up close near the piping, and we want it to be on the seam allowance. One thing I did the other night, do you see how this piping sticks out further than the edge of my bag? You could actually take your scissors and cut this in half if you wanted to keep this closer to the seam allowance. I've been doing this for a while, and I've done enough piping to kind of know an eyeball. But if you need this to be a little bit easier, you could trim this down so it's the exact 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then line up the raw edge with your bag. If I did that right now, it would be too big. This is probably 3/8 the total of this piping, and I don't want it to be that big. I want 1/4 inch because it's really important to keep the piping nice. Keep the shape of the bag nice too, I should say. Okay, we're basically in the home stretch now, just one more corner. Okay, so now we're getting toward the end. I'm actually just going to clip off a pretty generous amount to get this out of the way. And then in order for us to terminate, basically we just need to overlap this one side, and then we're going to do the same exact thing and twist kind of down and lock it into place. So I'm going to hold it straight, come all the way down, stop just shy of this, and then I'm going to keep my needle down, and I'm going to just pivot this right down like that. Make sure the two piping pieces stay lined up when I do that. I think one more stitch, and now I'm going to pull this down and sew across. And that's it. And now I'm going to cut everything off the machine and trim that down even. So do you see how that kind of twists like that? So when we turn this, will have a little kind of twist. I'll show you on the vinyl one, which the vinyl one's a little thick. But do you see how we just kind of terminated it nicely and there's no raw edges? On this bag, there's no better way for us to do it, unfortunately. You can pick any point. I tend to like to hide it like on a gusset somewhere, kind of by the zipper maybe. Like I hide it in a few places, but on this bag it's so small and there's only kind of one side. Because the piping's right on the front, there's nowhere for us to hide it. It's just it. So now that I've got piping on here, I literally treat it like it doesn't exist, except for now I have kind of a ditch that I can stitch in. If you want to, you can go around the back and trim off all the extra. I don't actually think I need to. I think I'm just going to leave it. This bag is pretty thin, so I think I'm okay. Now we're going to ease in the gusset. Almost forgot about that darn piping. So I am going with my pretty side to pretty side here. The ring is inside out. Can you see that? And then I'm gonna kind of probably work back here so I can see it. But I've got my center on here with my zipper facing up. And I'm just gonna clip it starting, actually I lied. I am gonna trim this extra off because it's in my way and I can't see my edges while I'm easing. My seam allowances are going to be off if I do that. So if you have extra, trim it, according to your pattern, like according to your bag pattern pieces. You could probably fold it out of the way, but I just don't want to fool with that, and I don't want to be off, and I don't want things to be off center. I think it'll just be easier to trim it off. And the piping is all attached now, so we don't even need any of that extra for any reason. So trim it off. Okay, I trimmed off, probably a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. So, just a little cleaner. Okay, now ease it in. For the 14 billionth time. Okay. Now I'm just going to use clips. This is probably, the most tedious, most obnoxious part. But, it is what it is. And we just want to take our time on this portion. Because the better we do on this easing in, the better our bag will look. Right? Right. Some of this piping, I think I got a little close to the edge, but we'll see how it turns out. You might feel when you're sewing this like you're running over the piping, and that's okay. You kind of want that a little bit. I'm going to unlock this chair back. How do I do that? Nope, that's down. That's not what I wanted. Ooh. I can't remember. Oh, this chair's different. That's right. Okay, there we go. I'm sitting super straight up, but I have to ease this thing in, so I need to sit back just a tiny bit. Anyway, yeah, so you're going to feel a little bit like you might be running over your piping, and that's okay. You want to be stitching really uncomfortably close to the bulgy edge of the piping. That's how you get that really nice look on the piping specifically. That's how we achieve that. So, now I have, since making these, eased in 2 of these where I didn't even have to clip the gusset or the bag itself, and it just eased into place so beautifully. So I'm hoping this one is the same. Wouldn't that be nice? I still don't see a battery flash up on this, so I'm hoping my phone's not going to die. I've already done a mav pack on the channel, so same thing, just different materials, and this time it's 120 instead of 115 size. So if it dies, you'll have to tune into the other one, because I think if it dies, we'll just lose the whole stream. I don't think I'll be able to like publish this after or anything. But I'll post a picture of it in the group when it's done. I didn't even think about this, y'all. It's Friday today, right? I think my whole week is totally messed up. It's one of those weeks where like nothing happened on the day it was supposed to. So now I've lost like 3 days and I have no idea what day it is. And I just realized it's Friday. Well, at least I think it's Friday. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Friday. So I think this one is going to ease in just as beautifully as the other ones did, and I'm not going to have to clip anything. This bag is a really good beginner skill builder bag in my opinion, because it's got just enough curves to be a bit of a challenge without having so many curves that it's going to be an issue. Some bags have so many curves and easing them in is just a pain. It's terrible. This one eases in beautifully, and it did ease in beautifully this time. So I'm just going to start stitching all the way around at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, one thing that we're going to visit and revisit is this piping. We're going to stitch all the way around, and then we're going to turn it out and we're going to see which areas we need to revisit, because I guarantee you'll need to revisit an area or two where you didn't get quite close enough to the piping, you know, where we could have done a little more, little whatever, and you'll see, and you'll do it until it looks pretty, right? So, but if we keep pretty consistent on our stitch allowance on this, that 1/4 inch, I think we'll be all right. But we'll see what happens. So, if you need to, your stiletto is your best friend here. I do think I probably got a little close to the edge on this piping, and I probably could have gone a little further away, but we'll see what happens. I probably put it a little too close to that 1/8 inch. But the other night I went a little further and I had to revisit it like 4 different times to get it nice and really like tight looking, which is fine. You can revisit it as much as you want to. Sorry, I didn't mean to shake you guys so much. Okay, so now we get into the first of the challenging corners, and I like to kind of fold like this. You just kind of saw me do like a bit of a mitered fold, and I kind of massage this fold as I go around. And I'll kind of move it so that I don't end up with puckers on the fold, and I can already see I need my stiletto here because my layer just shifted, which is perfectly fine. You use the pointy end of your stiletto and just dig in and pull it over. Keeps your fingers out of the way. I can kind of feel the piping underneath here. This is really more like an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on mine because of where I put this. But again, I can always take more if I need to. Once I get this basted around, I can go through here and kind of feel, I can visually inspect and like feel my way around. So I'm okay with that. This corner, I folded all of it to one side. Now I'm going to roll everything over to the back end where I already went and get that in there. Okay, those are the 2 complicated curves. And yes, we have to revisit them on the back. But now we just have the one big broad curve up on top, which is pretty easy to navigate. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like cotton piping as much as vinyl piping. Cotton piping is really thin and it's hard to feel. So like, it's hard for me to feel if I'm stitching right on top of it or I didn't catch or like what I did, versus the vinyl is really thick. You can see it through the layers, you know, like you can squish it and feel it and really know. I honestly have no idea what this is gonna look like when I turn it out because I can't feel any of it. But it is domestic friendly. And I was just trying to, you know, I think a lot of people get intimidated when they see somebody making an all vinyl bag and they think, well, now I can't do it because my machine can't handle, I can't make a beautiful bag because they're doing all vinyl. This is nothing but waterproof canvas, cotton canvas, fusible fleece, and cotton piping. There's nothing here that a regular domestic machine can't handle, I promise. So I want everybody to understand that. I don't have any kind of a weird bias toward like it has to be a vinyl bag or else it's not worth it. It has to be made on a domestic or a industrial or else, you know, you can't sit with us. Like I'm not that guy and I'll never be that guy. So it's important for me to diversify my content and my materials that I use, you know, not just for me, but for you guys, because I don't want to lose sight of like, hey, not everyone has an industrial machine and they're not going to, which I fully am okay with that. Okay, so we made it all the way around. I'm going to cut this guy loose and I'm going to turn it out and we're going to look at it. And if I find an instance where I did not catch close enough, I'm going to show you and we're going to revisit those areas. I can already tell there's a whole bunch of them. So that's a good thing, frankly. I'll show you an example of what it should look like and what it shouldn't look like. And then we'll just revisit those. Easy peasy. So here's great examples of why I said contrast stitching. Okay. So do you see right there how you can see my stitch line? That's not tight enough. There's too much piping hanging out and it's loosey-goosey and it looks terrible. So we're going to need to revisit that corner. Let me find an area that looks good and was tight enough. So right here, this is tight enough. Do you see how I folded it all the way back and I don't see any stitching and the piping is like in there? Same on the back side. Both sides look equally as good. And when the gusset is at its nice rounded 90-degree, right there, it looks perfect. But do you see how right there it looks terrible? You don't want this. Turn it backside out and stitch it. You know, not only did I not even catch my bag right there, you can see. So that's fine. We're going to re-stitch and we'll revisit these areas. There's two ways you can go about this. I like to take my tailor's chalk. Where is my tailor's chalk? This is tailor's chalk. It's white. I can see it and it goes away with heat. Oops. So what I'm going to do is just visually inspect this all the way around, and on the inside where I stitch, it's like, oh, this corner needs a revisit. So I just poke this out and I make a mess all over it. Just like, here, fix that. And so now I can see really brightly and easily, oh, that needs to be revisited. So I'm just going to go around and inspect the whole bag. And if the whole thing looks bad, I mean, you could just do the whole thing. But sometimes you just need to do a couple of areas. And really, most of my bag looks okay. This whole top curve needs to be revisited. So that's a thing. That needs to be revisited. That's not too bad. And then the sides are okay. So I'm all right with this. Most of my areas just need to revisit, so I'm just going to quick buzz around the edge now that it's all basted together. There's no clips in my way. And we only did piping on I don't do it on the back. You could if you want. I don't. So I don't need to do that, but now I can see really clearly, like this was the really bad corner. So we'll just start over here. Basically, I just know I can see my stitch lines I just made, and it's like, well, that wasn't close enough, so take about 1/8 of an inch more. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, start right there. Oops. I'm going to pull this off because I just went right off the edge right to where I was before. So that's okay, but and that's fine because again, we're going to stitch about 7 more times around this with the binding and all that. So it's totally fine to just kind of baste this into place. But I'm not really getting any closer than I was the first time. So let's try one more time. Here we go. Still have my narrow zipper foot on, so what I'm basically doing to revisit this whole curve is I'm splitting the narrow foot down the stitches I made before. I know what I took before wasn't enough of a seam allowance, like a seam to this piping, so an 1/8 more is gonna probably be perfect. Some areas I may have to revisit a 3rd time, but way easier the second time around because there's no clips in your way and you can just kind of get all the way around the way you need to. Much, much easier. Okay, so who thinks we got it all this time and who thinks we might need one more visit? I'm not even sure what I think. But let's turn it out and let's see. Okay, I see what happened on this corner. This layer got folded and I completely missed it. So the really dumb thing, remember when I told y'all about basting? This is canvas and it's shredded and I'm gonna have to cut this whole corner out and fix it because it didn't catch, it's never gonna catch that corner. We missed it on the initial run. So it's fine, it's just one corner. I wanna look at everything else while I'm here to see if I need to undo anything else, and I do need to undo, it's just that one corner inside, but I need to undo that whole side. So do you see what I'm saying? Like this isn't the piping's fault. We're never going to catch that. We're seeing the inside of the liner. We missed the baste on that. That's why I like basting, because normally it helps us avoid that, but you know, stuff happens. So we'll just, I think this actually happened on one of the other ones I made. I don't remember. Something I had recently kept missing on the baste. So we will undo all of this all the way through, just in one little spot so we can rip this hole open. And hopefully that's the right, is that the right one? I think this is correct. So frustrating, but it's way better to pay attention now than get through the whole thing and have that happen, because good grief, that would be a ton of work. I have a feeling I just basted too close to the edge when I was basting around my round zipper gusset pieces, and I just missed it and I didn't realize. That's what I think happened. So let me see. Okay, so I've now ripped enough of a hole I can just go through here and seam rip this carefully. Super duper carefully, because I don't need to take all the basting layers apart, but what I do need to do is get back in here to the meat of this and redo this corner. Like the whole thing from baste, if that makes any sense. From the zipper gusset baste, because that's what I'm missing. And I want to just be careful to not rip my waterproof canvas here. This is also one of the things I don't love about, canvas. It's fine, except this can happen if you're not real careful about your, material shifting. We just have to be really, really careful now ripping this, because what I don't want to do is rip, my materials. And then really annoyingly, this happened right on the curve, which is going to make it a bit more of an obnoxious spot to deal with and repair. So let me see. It was the zipper gusset side that's being obnoxious. So really that's actually the side I need to rip off, not this other one. Yeah, that was my hand. Just seam ripping my hand. Wouldn't be the first time I stab myself, and it won't be the last either. Okay, so looking at this up close so you can understand, this is what we were seeing up into. That's where I missed my base on the gusset, not this part. On this part, so then when we were turning all the layers together, we had a hole. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through here quickly, get all these little threads out of the way. I'm going to rebaste this corner, like the gusset piece, with all the rest of this out of my way, and get all these little thread bits out of here. And I'm going to rebaste this so that hopefully when we reattach this whole thing, we don't have this problem again. Because I don't want to do that. But the canvas is starting to fray, so we do need to be extra careful about this. Hopefully we really catch the whole thing too. And we need to make sure that we do, because again, the canvas is starting to fray, not the OtterTex, but the cotton canvas I'm using for the exterior. So we don't get many chances with this. We kind of have to like fix it and then not muck with it anymore until we bind it. And once it's bound, we're going to stitch through it so many times, but I just need to make sure. I think I got through all of it. And so the next step for me is I'm going to reattach this piping just really loosely right on the edge, just so it can't shift anymore, because I accidentally detached it here for a hot second, pulling out the wrong baste. So I'm just going to rebaste that. Make sure it's in a nice straight line. So now we've got that layer all back together. I'm going to make sure I got through all the layers to fix this hole. And then I just have to be really careful reattaching this whole side, making for darn sure that I got through everything. And hopefully we don't have that happen again, because it's now basted. I think we're okay. And I think we would have been okay the first time had I caught that. So I'm going to double check my zipper gusset on the other side See if I missed any parts. But we are good to go now to start reattaching this. And I might have to visit it like 3 or 4 times. Because now I've trimmed off, like I've pulled, and you know, I want to make sure I get all of it. So we'll see what happens, but I stabbed myself in the finger. Okay, so there's that. And then that's just kind of reattaching this part over here that we kind of messed with. Let me get my stiletto back out. I'm going to need to use that to like pull this really well out to the corner here and keep it all lined up. I already don't like the way that one went off the rails. So if you're like me and you have this happen, just start over. Just pull it off and start over. You don't need to seam rip it unless you like really attached it super crooked. You can just kind of start over at the beginning of the corner. Pull it out to where it needs to be. The corner is like the toughest part to sit here and repair. That's what's so obnoxious about this area. I should have paid more attention to my gusset. I am going to rip just a couple of those stitches I just put in because they're getting me to a place where I don't want to be right from the beginning. Just a couple though. Oh, bag making. Also, pull out all the little spare nonsense threads now so you don't have to do it later. Trim them off. It's way easier. Clean it up. That way they aren't sticking out. Okay. Let's try this again, shall we? I've only ever had this one time where I was so frustrated I literally got a big needle and I hand basted it because it just like, it wasn't even piping, it was just a gusset that was like giving me the worst trouble. And I was beyond frustrated and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm all done with this. So, this time, we're going to squish you over and we're going to pull this whole situation out like so. We're going to take it stitch at a time. Because this little guy, there we go. That's already way better. This is one of the reasons, by the way, I don't love 1/4 inch seam allowances. You know, you're making the bag a lot bigger, but if you would do like 130% and then take a 1/2 inch. I don't know what the actual math would be there, but you'd need to do that math. And you'd need to go a lot bigger to take a bigger seam allowance. I don't love super narrow seam allowances like this for this exact reason. I think it's just nicer to have a bigger one. Okay, let's see if we fixed our little situation here. Hopefully we did. And then I'm gonna, like I said, check that baste all up in there. Okay, so we did fix the gusset that we didn't catch, but I have a little bit of loose piping right there. See, it's a little long. I'm just going to run over that one more time and then we're good. But we caught the whole gusset. We did everything the way we were supposed to do. Let me check this corner. The corner's a little loose too, so let's just have one more revisit. Just so I'm satisfied with it. Also need to check my bobbin thread because I have a feeling I'm about to be out. Okay. There we go. That's way better looking. So we caught our whole edge. My corner's nice and clean. The piping is nice and tight. I can pull this all the way back and I don't have like loose thread in there. So the cotton piping versus the marine vinyl piping, it is thinner, just, you know, an FYI. So it doesn't have, I mean, it's a much more subtle impact, but this is also a smaller, you know, material. So something to keep in mind if you're like, oh, I really want to do piping, and then you do the cotton instead. It's just, it's not as fat and thick, but it's also easier to work with in the way that it's not so thick. But like I said, it is a little harder to feel. Trying to feel for those seam allowances. So I'm just checking this one more time before I move on from this gusset, and I think I'm good. Now I want to check this basting though, because if I missed an edge again, I'm going to be real annoyed, and I just want to fix it now. So I'm going to examine both sides of this gusset, and if I need to rebaste it, now would be the time to do it. I did miss right here on this zipper. It's a really small area, but I don't want to chance that happening again because what a pain in the butt. So I'm just going to baste right here. Okay. I also missed on the other side of the zipper, same area. So I'm just going to do the same thing right there. Okay. If I had checked a little earlier, that would have been totally avoidable. But live and learn. Or, you know, live, don't learn, and keep repeating. Okay, I think we're good to ease the last side on here. So, things to note again, be really careful about this. Tape it out of the way. If you're not able to remember, make sure this stays out of the way. Obviously, make sure you put everything on right side up and leave your zipper open a little bit. It's a pretty easy one to deal with, but to open anyway. But like, you know, it's just easier if you leave it open now. Oh, my neck is starting to hurt. I've been hunched over the computer all day working on template pieces, so now I'm hunched over the machine. My neck is getting sore. I am really excited for this Mav pack. I think it's going to be really cool, and I have been waiting to cut into this fabric literally for years. At least 4, if not closer to 5 years. It has just been in my stash. At the time that this pre-order ran with whoever it was, I remember wanting to buy a lot more. But I was unsure about the person running the pre-order, and I was a little unsure about, you know, just a whole bunch of things at the time. So it was like, oh, I'm just going to get a little bit. And this is one of them that I truly regret not buying more of this artwork. Because it's by far my favorite Beetlejuice I've ever seen run. I really love the whole feel of it. I think it's just phenomenal. So, and unfortunately, whatever company this was, I don't even really remember the name, but I know that they've kind of gone by the wayside. I never hear about them anymore. I know that the owner was having some struggles, and so it was really sad, and I've never ordered from him again. I don't even remember the name, but just kind of remember the circumstances. So major bummer, but oh well. I have some of it, and that's what is important. Okay, that side eased in really nicely as well, so no worries there. And then I'll probably just leave this zipper all the way open. So green inside. Melissa, did you get this thing printed? Are you cutting? Hope so. I can't even see a time on here, y'all. I literally... Yeah, it will not give me my battery life or anything. Well, yeah, I got nothing. Hasn't died yet. So once we finish with this gusset, hopefully it's a pretty easy, one this time around again, you know, easier than the last one. And then we just do our binding, which is straightforward. At that point, it's literally just cosmetic because we've already constructed the whole bag. So I like to just start right here. There's no piping on this side to worry about, so just take your 1/4 inch seam allowance and just make sure you catch all the edges. That's all you want, and no puckers. I'll tell y'all this, it's so much easier sewing all this canvas than trying to do it with vinyl because it's just thinner. I don't have to flex my bag making muscles quite so much. Do you know what? I didn't check my bobbin thread. I sure hope I don't run out. Kind of feel like I'm going to run out, though. It sounds like it's going to run out to me. We'll see, I guess. Well, I got a thread shred. I don't know if we can power through that. Let's see. Looks like not. It's just getting worse. How annoying. Come on. Is like totally shredded. I'm not going to worry about it because, again, sewing through it so many times will cover this and cover it and cover it and cover it, so I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to rethread back up a little bit and go for it. I'm not going to bother you know, undoing anything crazy, but since I'm pulling this off right now, I'm just gonna double check on my bobbin because it would be stupid not to. Okay, so we probably have enough to get through this construction stitch, and then we're gonna have to reload this bobbin before I do the binding. Oh my gosh. I better remember or I'm gonna be so mad. Nothing worse than doing binding with air. I can usually tell though, if you listen, your machine will tell you when it's running out. When something's wrong, you can hear it. Typically. Guessing that everybody is just sewing because it's like unusually quiet in here tonight. Usually there's all kinds of chatting taking place. Because we did the say it while you sew when I was cutting this bag, I'm a little, you know, chatted out personally. I mean, I want to chat, but you know what I mean? Like I'm just kind of, I don't have a lot to say, I guess. So I don't know if that's the problem, like I'm not being very thought-provoking. Or if y'all are just extra focused tonight. Everybody's so quiet. Okay. Oops. All right, so I'm just examining now. I have one pointy corner I just don't like. And then, yeah, I'm just gonna quickly buzz this and make it round. If you have a pointy corner, now is the time to kind of fix that and just make it look a little better. I just don't like the way it's sitting. So I'll just start on one side. And then just that's definitely better looking. A little rounder. I'll turn it out just to make sure I kind of caught everything I wanted to catch there, but I think we're good. Especially on this top curve, you want it to be nice and round and good looking. I think I'm happy with that. So now we do the binding. Tanya says, I'm searching for a skinny zipper foot that will work with my machine. So you could try skinny. They're typically called narrow zipper feet. And if you look for like left narrow zipper foot or right narrow zipper foot, a lot of zipper foots are a combination of left and right. This is a narrow, and it's the, I think they would call this the I don't know if they do it by the needle position, because the needle position's on the left of this, or if it's where the foot is, which is to the right of the needle. But search for left narrow zipper foot and right narrow zipper foot. And thank you for telling me to change my bobbin. I was just going to say, I need to look at that. I know I don't have enough. And I hate to waste the thread, but I don't have any extra bobbins. Ooh, look at, I don't even have to waste very much. See, there's like nothing on this sucker. Maybe 2 feet, not even. That's it. Not today, bobbin. Not today. Thank you for reminding me, Tanya. Yeah, so hopefully you'll be able, and then you need to know if you have a low shank machine or a high shank machine, and frankly, I don't actually know. Most of the feet that you're looking for can be found on WAWAK. So try WAWAK, W-A-W-A-K, I think is how you spell it. And you can just plug in your machine there. They carry stuff for domestics, industrials, and semi-industrials. And like the case of mine, let me see, I bought like a presser plate for my industrial from WAWAK and a few other things from them, and my machine takes Singer parts. So that may or may not help you, but hopefully that'll help you narrow down the search. All right, we got a fresh bobbin. And, I just wound this one. I really didn't want to use contrast thread on my binding because it just does not look, I never get it perfect. So I was kind of going to use the solid, but now I just wound this. So I guess we're going with contrast. This is why I'm sewing. I'm tired, y'all. I'm too tired for this shenaniganery. Shenanigans. Okay. Now I gotta rethread this guy too. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Is anyone on here gonna go to the 3rd wizardry retreat in, actually I have no idea when it is. October? November? I think it's in the fall. I don't know. September. It's September. I know when it is because I just talked to Melissa. And she was telling me that she couldn't go to another event because they were doing the retreat. So it's the weekend of like the 17th or something like that. The weekend before or after, right in there. So anyways, anyone going to that? I just went to the 2nd retreat. I brought this machine with me. I loved the retreat. It was so much fun. It was such an amazing experience. And Crystal knows this. I will never shut up about her food. It was so good. And then on top of all the stuff she home cooked, you guys, oh my gosh, the snacks. Melissa bought freeze-dried candy and like all kinds of stuff. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And the snacks, like imagine if in the back of your sewing room there was just like a chef full-time waiting there for you, preparing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all you had to do was wait for somebody to say, okay, the food is ready, and then go, and you could have like a gorgeous evening of like one of the nights we had taco night, and I couldn't eat tacos, but I could eat salad, so I just made taco salad, and there was like everything you could ever imagine going on a taco. Every kind of topping, like 5 types of salsa and queso and like tons of chips, and it was so good, like to have chips and salsa with the tacos. Another night there was like, I don't even remember. I ate every meal, and really the biggest one, oh my gosh, she made the most to die for chicken gumbo I've ever had, ever. And then there was, gosh, I can't even recall. I was like eating cookies and brownies and freeze-dried treats, and I brought some fudge to share with everybody that I just bought like on the way in at Buc-ee's, and some candy. So I was like eating candy, and oh my gosh, so much food. So good. It was not only a really rewarding, fun weekend for sewing, but I met a lot of really cool people. I loved the venue. And then if all of that wasn't enough, that like you can go for a whole weekend and you don't have to make any of your food. You never have to leave. Don't drive your car. Like, just hang out. It's walking distance from a beautiful, big sewing store. So I spent, that sewing store is a carrier of Tula Pink fabric amongst others. And I spent a very good bundle on Tula Pink fabric that I am not unhappy about. They had really good pricing, and then on top of good pricing, because like for instance, I just ordered some Tula Pink Deja Vu last night off of online from a store that I know of, and it wasn't badly priced, but it was $15.50 a yard. Just it's not horrible, but it's not great. Plus shipping. So this place had it, I think, for like $14.99 or something a yard. But then everybody who stays at the retreat gets there's like 10 or 15% off coupon. You can use it the whole time you're there. So and the store is literally walking distance, and it's big. Like we probably spent an hour in there, about just milling around looking at all the fabric choices. They have Cafe Face, as well as Riley Blake, whole bunches of fabrics. So yeah, and then they had tons of Tula Pink, huge selection of Tula Pink. So, and they had a lot of her notions too. So I was really, really happy about that. I had a good time. So it's good people, good time, great food, really nice accommodations, great teachers. I cannot speak highly enough of that retreat. I know that there's been some talk about, some of these retreats like not being worth it. But this one is. For the money you pay, oh my gosh, you are getting an amazing experience, and then some. So I would highly recommend it. I'm pretty picky, I feel like, especially when it comes to, some of these like weekend things and retreats and stuff, because they're expensive. So, you want to make sure you're getting your money's worth. And, some of these things, they're really expensive. And when we talk about airfare and all that on top of it. So with the Wizardry Retreat, the things that I liked the most, some of these weekend, expos and other stuff, once you get a ticket, you still have to fight over classes, which like I don't love, and I'm not that tech savvy, and I'm not that interested in like fighting for classes. I just want to take what I want to take, right? So with the Wizardry Retreat, if you get a ticket, it just automatically means that you get a ticket and a class kit and whatever to every single class. And the classes come to you. You don't move around the venue. You set up your machine, you get a dedicated workstation, and you literally just sit there the whole weekend. So you have neighbors, but you get your own like 6 or 8 foot table or whatever it was, plenty of space. I had like a cutting mat sitting next to me and my kits and space for all my stuff and my own table, my own dedicated outlet. And you just leave your machine there and it's all very secure and nice. And then whenever you feel like it, you can get up and wander and get a snack, get a drink. It's all provided. And then it's walking distance to your accommodations. So I was, just really surprised. I wasn't sure what was going to happen with that retreat, and I was skeptical, like just to say the least, honestly, because I have, it's mixed things about a lot of these retreats. And but the teacher lineup looked really good, and I had been going through a pretty bad time personally, and I just wanted to get like my sojo back, and I wanted to meet nice people, and I just kind of wanted to get away from like, work, all this kind of stuff. I was really just trying to get, away from a lot of things. And I was really hopeful that I was going to be met with like nice people. This is what is happening. I was going to say, sorry, something is happening here with my thread. I'm getting caught on this little stand. This little thing here is catching my thread. Maybe we'll take that off. Anyway, hopefully that didn't cause me too much of a problem on my tension there. Guess it's time for me to get a better plate for that, huh? Anyway, so I was nervous, to say the least. I was a little anxious. I was a little worried, and there was no need to be. The instructors and helpers were so nice. The crowd who was there was so nice. And I was skeptical about the food. I'm not going to lie. I'm a bit of a picky eater. I mean, I'll eat whatever to be polite, but then I'll just like leave and go get a cheeseburger. You know what I mean? I did not need to do that. I'm that person that when like the food is unknown, I just pack granola bars in my purse. So I was like really worried. But the kitchen was super clean, state-of-the-art equipment, like all brand new. The whole facility was really nicely maintained too, which I loved. It felt just really, really good and homey, but like not, you know, spectacularly clean. It was nice, not sterile, just very, very clean. Made me feel really good. So yeah, I was so happy to be there, and I'm really bummed actually. It sold out really quick when they announced this last one, which I'm not shocked by at all. But I was bummed because I really wanted a ticket, and now I'm like, but I want to go. So whoever's going, I'm super jealous. And yeah, I hope you have an amazing time. I'm sure that you will, because Crystal and Melissa do a great job. The owners of Wizardry Stitchery. And all their helpers were really fantastic. The teachers were super good. I was really quite pleased. Okay, if this tension does not knock it off, just stop it. What are you doing? It's getting caught on my cone and causing all kinds of, yeah, look at, they came unthreaded and it broke. Boo. Luckily it like just happened, but I'm hearing all these chonking noises. And of course, you know, the cone's been fine this whole time. And now it wants to be a pill. I don't know what's happening. It's like it's just being obnoxious. Because, you know, if there was ever a time to be obnoxious, super late at night when I'm almost done with a project is the time. I hate when that happens. I'm ready to be finished with this bag and turning it right side out and admiring all of my work and perseverance. Damn it. Get with the program, machine. Well, and thread cone. It's like it's coming unspooled. I really don't want to put a thread net on it because that's going to cause a tension issue. It doesn't like that when I do that. But I might have to. Let me get a cone. Let me see if that's what I need to do. All right, you little pill. Also, why must these things act up when I'm trying to do these like live videos, huh? What's the dealio with that? Okay, let's see if this thread cone helps us out here because this is beginning to get irritating. And I have a whole nother side to bind at this point, so like I'm already over it. Get your shit together, little cone. The last time I put a cone, you know, a little fishnet shirt on one of these, it got weird and it didn't like it. So hopefully this time it's better because I'm ready to move on. Tanya says, it sounds like a great setup, and it really was a great setup. I loved that I didn't have to move all my stuff. Like, you get a little station to set up, and then you're just good to go. That was great. So another thing I really liked, there was helpers. Each class had a different teacher, but like if there were like 5 or 6 teachers, and if they weren't teaching at the time, they were helping. So there was always somebody around you to help and, you know, remind you. I don't know what that noise was, but it was something. That was weird. Okay. I might hand crank this just a little bit because I just heard a really weird, like, little tweaky noise. It seems fine. You good, champ? I think it's good. I don't know. Anyway. This needle was dull when I started working. I'm kind of surprised. It's still good, not gonna lie. And yes, I agree. I think Beetlejuice is being ornery. I don't know what's happening here, but like, Beetlejuice needs to knock it off. My phone is probably close. I keep saying it's close to dying, but it's still not yelling, so I guess it's fine. It's just, it weirds me out. I check the battery life like all the time. But because I have it turned, I need to get better about doing it in landscape. I forget all the time to turn my freaking phone. So I hate that content is the wrong juxtaposition, but it is what it is. I don't typically shoot on the phone. You know, I have like real cameras I use, so I don't have that problem unless I'm live. But I forget to turn the phone, and so this time I finally turned the phone, and now I can't see my battery. And it was already kind of low, you know, medium to low when I started. I like to start off with a full battery, so. Boy. First world problems, I guess, you know. Okay, we almost made it all the way back around. I will be really happy to have this cotton canvas bound because it's totally unraveling. Like, it's fine, but it's starting to get to that point where if I keep like messing with it, it's going to be a problem. Okay, let me get this out of the way and pull this flat. There we go. That's much better. So this side that I did here is the side with the binding, and I basically just chose to get this side out of the way because if I have to revisit or redo something, it's going to be this side. I just know it. Therefore, I figured I ought to do it first. Well, the thread cone seems to be working, so at least it's kind of keeping stuff on track. It's like wants to come out of every one of these thread guides. I'm rewarding myself with pastries after this. I would just like everyone to know that. My husband and I went to lunch today, and he's worked from home today, so we got to go to lunch together, which was nice. And when I was out of town, I was having all this dental work done, and y'all, this man, he knows that I loved baked goods, like love them with a passion. And so what does he do? He goes to a new bakery without me, and then when I can only eat soup and like I'm in all this pain from all this dental work and I'm like missing real food, this man goes and gets baked goods and then sends me pictures of them while I'm out of town and unable to eat this food. So upsetting. This is months ago now. So I said to him today, I was like, we're going to that bakery. He's like, what bakery? I was like, remember? And I started reciting this whole thing about how he had done this, and he like didn't even remember. What a brat. So we ended up going there, and it was super delicious, and we brought home a whole box. It was like, I don't even know. I would definitely say these are not your typical American sweets. They reminded me a lot of stuff that we had when we were in Europe, for sure. Like less sweet, more flaky, a little more like on the savory side, heavier on like the spices versus the sugars. Really loved all of it, and we got a whole box full of pastries and brought them home because we don't live, you know, terribly close to there, and it was delicious. And we had lunch there because they have sandwiches and stuff. I had a broccoli and cheddar quiche, like pastry. So it was like a quiche inside of a croissant crust instead of your typical like pie crust, like a quiche crust. And it was super delicious. So good. And loved it. And then we got like just, I don't even know, I can't even pronounce half the stuff we got, but like chocolate covered things, coconut, toasted coconut covered croissant filled with coconut cream. Oh my gosh, so good. There's a box of this stuff out on my cabinet, my kitchen counter, I mean. And when I am done with this bag, because it has fought me so much, I'm going to have a treat. Something chocolatey and bad for me. I earned it, damn it. Even if I didn't, though, I'd still have to eat the stuff because, you know, it's only good for so many days. A couple of days probably at the most. Okay, look how pretty, and now we just have to stitch it. That is some super smooth, I just love good binding. Ugh, so clean. And the bag is gonna be so structured after this, it's gonna be beautiful. Just wait. And then we just gotta repeat the other side and then we're done. And I'll probably do the strap tomorrow because I'm tired and I don't wanna. Oh, and the strap is easy. I'm not sure how I feel. I mean, I like this black and white chevron, but I don't know how I'm gonna like it with the bag. I gotta see the bag done. Otherwise, I might wait. I might wait and see if I have some other something. I do have purple. I have solid purple. I guess I could do that, but I kind of don't love solid. I kind of wanted like a fun pattern. Boop. Okay. I think this is good. I'm not going too close to the edge on this one because it's contrast and I don't feel like fooling with that. I think just going pretty close to the edge is going to be my best bet here. Oh my goodness. Oh no, I just got right off the edge of my friggin' binding. How annoying. Well, that was dumb. I think it's because I had my hand in there. Yeah, I pinched right off the edge. I didn't do that anywhere else, right? Yeah, I didn't, but that's so stupid. It's fine because it's when actually get in here to the bag, you're not even going to see it, but I do have to backtrack a couple of stitches. It just slooped right off the edge. That's kind of the other thing I don't really like about the 1/4 inch seam allowance. I would have had to buy skinnier binding, and like, I'm not doing that. It's not that big of a deal, but in order to get it to be a little trimmer and cleaner, I would have gone a little skinnier on the binding, but I happen to have the extra double fold. Why are you fighting with me so much, thread? Well, now how did you get over there? Oi. Everything is fighting me. Okay, so making sure to get through all the layers. Just starting to get to that special point where, like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. You know that special point I'm talking about? I kind of wonder, I can't tell. We'll see. Yep, I was gonna say, I know I caught over my piping somewhere in here where I wasn't supposed to. Sure did. Right in the part where I screwed up. So the binding shifted over the top, and I was like, oh, that'll be fine. I'll just keep sewing it. Like, it's no big deal. But I sewed way past it. See? So I ate my binding, or my piping, I mean. So it's fine. It's not going to hurt anything, but I have to pull it just in that corner and redo it, you know. I went way, way over what I should have on the piping. So this is the other reason why I really like vinyl piping, because you can feel really easily what you're doing, and it kind of keeps your machine on track because it's so bulky. You're not going to sew over it, but it's bulky. So, you know, you gotta, you gotta be careful of that. It's not for every machine. I mean, you can do it on domestics. I certainly have. It just, you gotta, be a little careful. Okay, so we pull that out, we pull this one out, and then we just redo this corner, and that's not too big of a deal. I think after this corner and fixing this, I'm calling it a quits before I do the other side, because the other side is just a repeat. I don't really think y'all want to see that anyway. And at this point, I'm like, could I screw anything else up? Probably, and I don't want to. So, we're just gonna try, I'm gonna roll this a little bit on the back side to see if that helps. Keep it out of the way. I'm pulling extra thread out of there because that cone is also just like absolutely fighting me every step of the way too. I don't know why everything insists on being obnoxious now. Everything was going so well. Okay, so here's what we need to do. We need to roll this and make sure it stays flat so we don't eat our piping again. I can feel the piping right there. We're just staying out on the edge all the way around and making sure that we don't literally repeat the same, you know, a problem. Okay. And if we're happy, I'm just going to finish the other binding tomorrow, but I want to turn this right side out. So we fixed that one corner. That was an easy fix. And I'm going to birth it so you can see it, or not really birth it, but, you know, turn it so you can see it. And then I have no idea what time it is. I'm going to bed. What's it called? The point of diminishing returns. No kidding. I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, you know, I'm over this. Everything is just, yeah. No kidding, Tanya. That's hilarious. I think we've gotten to that point. Oh my gosh. Okay. This thing died, and I'm sure none of you are here anymore, but for this video to be published later, I wanted to show you the damn bag. So I turned it while I charged my phone, and this is the end result. Let me move this. This phone is probably going to die again before I get it finished. So this is the little finished Mav pack. And of course now it's telling me, oh, 10% and showing me the thing. Everything fought me tonight. So anyway, this is just to finish the video. Here's the end of this. Here's the little back with my little slider. Oh, and that is the end of the bag. I'm going to finish the other piece of binding tomorrow on the inside, but I wanted to just turn this and look at it. So anyway, thank you very much. Good night. See you later. If everything is fighting you, the moral of the story is put the sewing down for the night. Go eat some chocolate. That's what I'm about to do. Okay, bye. Maybe not. How do I turn you off? Oh my gosh, and now I can't turn it off. Good grief. Ugh, leave me alone. I just want to go to bed. I don't want to make a comment. I want to turn this off. Everything is fighting me. Okay, good night.